If you want to be a lawyer, you have to pass the bar exam in the state where you want to practice, and usually, that means you have to graduate from law school first. California is one of only a handful of states that allows people to take the bar exam without going to law school. However, you should keep in mind that your odds of actually passing are extremely low. In law school, you learn to think like a lawyer and you use that critical thinking to help increase your likelihood of passing the bar exam. The California bar exam has a passage rate of less than 50%. And that rate shrinks to less than 5% among exam takers who didn't graduate from law school. Even if you are fortunate enough to pass the bar exam without a law degree, it is nearly impossible to be hired from any law firm without graduating from an aba-accredited law school. So, we are going to watch about the how to pass the California state bar exam without law school.
Method 1. Reading the law. First is complete the required pre-legal education.
Before you start studying law, you must finish at least 2 years of college work, or take the CLEP, College Level Equivalency Program, test. 2 years equates to at least 60 semester hours or 90 quarter hours of credit. You must have a grade average high enough to qualify for a degree. Had you completed the full 4 years? Step 2. Find an attorney or judge to supervise you as your mentor. It's up to you to find someone willing to mentor you for the next 4 years without receiving any pay or even continuing education credit. The attorney or judge you choose must be admitted to the active practice of law in California and have been in good standing for at least 5 years. You will not be working for your mentor. Rather, you will be following a course of study proposed by the attorney or judge, who will personally supervise you at least 5 hours a week. Try to study law under an attorney who practices the same type of law you want to practice after you pass the bar exam. Your mentor also must examine you at least once a month on the material you studied that month. Once every 6 months, your mentor will report to the committee of bar examiners the hours you studied each week and pay subjects and materials you studied.
Step 3. Register as a law student.
Before you submit any other forms, you must apply with the State Bar of California Office of Admissions to register as a law student. Your application for registration must include a $113 fee. Step 4. Submit a notice of intent to study in a law office or judge's chambers. Within 30 days of the day you start your study program, you must submit the state's form along with a $150 fee.
Step 5. Plan your program of study.
Since you have to pass the bar exam before you can start practicing law, your study should focus primarily on bar subjects. Subjects tested on the California bar include business associations, civil procedure, community property, constitutional law, contracts, criminal law and procedure, evidence, real property, torts, and wills and trusts. You must study at least 18 hours a week for 48 weeks to acquire credit for 1 year of legal study. You must have at least 4 years of legal study at a law office or judge's chambers before you can take the California bar exam. To qualify, your study hours must happen in the law office or the judge's chambers during regular business hours. Within 30 days of the day you begin your study, your mentor must send the committee of bar examiners an outline of your course of study. The committee doesn't critique this outline or oversee any of your work while you study.
Finally, submit semi-annual reports.
Within 30 days of the conclusion of a 6-month period of study, you and your mentor must send a report of your studies for that time accompanied by a $100 fee. The report may include the hours you studied, the areas of law you covered and course materials you used, cases you read, exercises you completed, and evaluation of your performance on monthly exams.
Method 2. Passing the first-year law student's examination.
First is study for the first-year law student's examination, FYLSX. After you've completed 1 year of legal education, you must take and pass the FYLSX, also known as the baby bar. The FYLSX takes 1 day. During the morning session you have approximately 4 hours to answer 4 essay questions. After a lunch break, the test day concludes with a 3-hour afternoon session during which you'll answer 100 multiple choice questions. Since the exam covers contracts, criminal law, and torts, these subjects should be the focus of your first year of study. Study aids and sample essay exam questions with answers are available from the Office of Admissions of the California Bar.
Step 2. Apply to take the FYLSX.
The exam is offered in June and October each year, and must be taken either in Los Angeles or San Francisco. Your application must be accompanied by a fee of $566. If you file your application after the regular deadline passes, expect to pay additional late filing fees which can be as much as $200. After you apply, your mentor will be sent a certification form to prove you've completed a year of law study. You have until the final eligibility deadline to submit your certification.
Finally, take the FYLSX.
A passing score on the exam is a total score of 560 or higher. Your multiple choice score consists of the number of questions you answered correctly, converted to a 400-point scale that adjusts for variations in difficulty across the different versions of the test. Your total raw essay score ranges between 160 and 400 points. This score is converted to the same 400-point scale used for the multiple choice questions. Your converted essay scores and converted multiple choice scores are added together to produce your total score. If you don't pass the baby bar on the first try, you can try again. The California bar gives you a total of 3 chances to pass the exam. If it takes you more than 3 attempts, you only get credit for a single year of legal education, which means you wouldn't get credit for any time you spent studying while you were retaking the FYLSX.
Method 3. Applying for determination of moral character. First is gather materials necessary to complete your application.
The committee conducts a thorough and intense background examination before determining you have sufficient moral character to practice law in California. For example, to complete the application you will need to list employment history going back to your 18th birthday. You may not recall the addresses of places you worked part-time, or the names of your supervisors. You'll need to track down this information. Read the entire application through once before you answer any questions, and make notes of information you need. Then find that information before you sit down to fill out the application.
Step 2. Have a set of fingerprints made.
If you live in California, you must submit fingerprints using California LiveScan technology. If you live outside the state, you can submit a fingerprint card along with the request for exemption.
Step 3. Complete your application.
You must answer all questions on the application completely and correctly, or your application will be considered incomplete and won't be reviewed.
Step 4. Submit your application.
If you have completed the application online, you must mail a hard copy to the Office of Admissions in Los Angeles within 30 days of submitting it online. Use the checklist that prints with your application to double-check and ensure that all the forms and pages have been completed, and that you've signed all the forms that require your signature. Your application will be considered abandoned if it isn't complete within 60 days of filing. You can file your application at any time after you begin your law study, but the committee recommends you file at least 8 to 10 months prior to the date you anticipate being admitted to practice law in California. Your application must be accompanied by a filing fee of $525. The committee will send confidential reference questionnaires to any references, employers, or law schools that are listed on your application.
Step 5. Wait for a determination on your application.
It takes at least 180 days for the committee to complete the background check, finish processing an application, and make a decision. You will receive a notice from the committee within 180 days. Either the notice will tell you the determination is positive, or it will tell you that the committee requires further information from you, a government agency, or another source. If the committee requests additional information from you, you should submit it promptly. If the committee still has questions about or issues with your application, you may receive an invitation to an informal hearing. You don't have to attend, and it won't affect the committee's decision if you decide not to go. However, attending the hearing could allow you to clear up problems that are keeping you from getting a positive determination. Step 6. Update your application as necessary until you are admitted to the bar. Until you pass the bar exam, you are responsible for amending your application when any of the information you provided changes, or you have new information that should be added. Failure to do so within 30 days of your knowledge of the change may result in the suspension of a positive determination. To submit amendments, you can either print your application and mark the places where changes need to be made, or send in a separate sheet of paper on which you've written the changes or additions down and signed it. Amendments may be submitted with your hard copy application or mailed separately to the Los Angeles Office of Admissions.
Finally, file for an extension.
A positive moral character determination is valid for 36 months. If you haven't passed the bar in that time, you can submit an application for an extension along with a fee of $252.
Method 4. Passing the multi-state professional responsibility exam. First is study for the MPRE.
The MPRE is administered and graded by the National Conference of Bar Examiners and tests your understanding of the American Bar Association Model Rules of Professional Conduct, the aba Model Rules of Judicial Conduct, and other court decisions or rules of procedure and evidence that deal with attorney ethics in professional conduct. The test consists of 60 multiple-choice questions, only 10 of which are scored. You will have 2 hours to complete the test. Each question presents a hypothetical set of facts followed by a question. You must pick the best possible answer to the question from the 4 options presented. In addition to reading the aba Model Rules, you can study for the MPRE by taking sample test questions or by purchasing and taking the MPRE online practice exam.
Step 2. Register for the MPRE.
You can take the MPRE in August, November, or March each year. The fee for the exam is $80 if you register by the regular deadline, or $160 if you register by the late deadline. You will receive an admission ticket, which will indicate your test date and assigned testing center. You must complete the photo identification section of the admission ticket and attach a passport-type photograph of yourself that was taken within the last 6 months.
Finally, take the MPRE.
To be admitted to practice law in California, you must receive a scale score of 86.00 or greater. On your test day, report to your assigned testing center at the time listed on your admission ticket to take the exam. You should try to arrive at least a half hour before the test begins so you can get checked in. And to give yourself some time because late arrivals won't be admitted. You must bring a government-issued photo ID with a first and last name that match the first and last name on your admission ticket. Review the list of prohibited items before you enter the testing center. And if you have anything with you that won't be allowed, such as a mobile phone or a watch, leave it at home or in your car.
Method 5. Taking the California Bar Examination. First is study for the bar exam.
In addition to your 4 years of law office study, you should consider taking a bar prep course to learn how to succeed at the bar exam itself. Bar prep courses typically offer a combination of in-person and online instruction over several weeks, and cost a few $1,000s. Bar prep courses boast far higher passage rates than the state averages. For example, Themis states that 75% of first-time test takers who completed their program passed the California Bar.
Step 2. Understand that you probably won't pass.
In July of 2014, 4 candidates took the California Bar for the first time after completing the 4-year study program. None of them passed. Of the 23 exam takers who were on their second or third attempt to pass the bar, only 1 passed.
Step 3. Apply to take the bar exam.
Once you've completed your 4 years of study, you can apply to take the California Bar exam by filling out the application and paying the $645 fee to take the California Bar as a general applicant. The exam is administered in July and February of each year. If you file your application in April for the July exam, or in November for the February exam, you'll pay an additional $50 late filing fee. Anytime later, up until the final filing deadline, you can only apply if you pay an additional $250. If you want to use a laptop for the exam, you'll pay an additional fee of $146. You should decide if you want to use a laptop when you initially file your application. Because if you change your mind and decide later that you want to use one, you'll have to pay an additional $15 late laptop fee.
Step 4. Take the bar exam.
The California General Bar Examination consists of a written section that includes 6 essay questions and 2 performance tests along with the 200 multiple choice questions for the multi-state bar examination, MBE. For example, the July 2014 examination included essays on contracts and remedies, evidence, business associations and professional responsibility, criminal law and procedure, trusts and community property, and torts. The 2 performance tests were writing an objective memorandum and writing a persuasive brief. You will receive an admissions ticket that includes the dates and times of your exam and a location of your assigned testing center. You also will receive a bulletin that describes the schedule for testing each day and provides a list of items prohibited at the testing center. Carefully review the rules regarding items such as mobile phones that are prohibited in the testing center, and make sure you don't bring anything with you that isn't allowed. The California bar exam takes 3 days. Each of those days begins at 8:30 a.m. and consists of 2 3-hour testing sessions broken up by a lunch break.
Finally, pass the bar exam.
To pass the exam, you must have a total scale score of 1440 points out of a possible 2000 points. Your result letter will include your raw scores on each of the 8 parts of the exam. Your total raw and scaled written score, your MBE scale score, and your total scaled score.
We hope it is useful to you. Please subscribe to our channel to upskill yourself.